Blackjack. Seems so simple, right? But for most of us, it's really a game of guesswork, a lot of gut feelings. Well, in this explainer, we're going to show you exactly why that feeling is probably costing you a lot of money. And spoiler alert, the right move in every single situation, it's already been solved.
Okay, so picture this. You're at the table, right? You can feel the felt, your money's on the line, and the dealer slides those cards out. Instantly, every single hand forces a choice. What are you going to do? Hit? Stand? Maybe split or double down? It's all on you.
So, how do you decide? Be honest. A lot of us, we just go with a feeling, don't we? That little voice in your head, that gut instinct that just screams, stand, or hit me. Okay, but what if I told you that your gut is probably the worst advisor you could have at a blackjack table? Seriously, the truth is, the correct choice has already been made. Not by a person, but by math. It's not about what you feel, it's all about probability.
You know, the source material for this really nails it with this quote. These decisions feel personal, but they are governed by probability, not instinct. That's so powerful. So let's really dig in and see what that actually means when you're sitting there with your chips on the line. Okay, so first things first, let's look at those 4 main choices you have, but we're going to reframe them. We're not just going to talk about what they are. We're going to look at what you feel when you make the choice versus what the math actually says you should do.
All right, first up is hitting. Pretty simple, right? You just want another card.
But here's the big mental shift. The fear everyone has is obvious. Am I going to bust? Of course. But the real question, the one smart players ask, is this. What's going to happen if I don't hit? See, a lot of the time, standing on a weak hand is just a slow, painful, guaranteed loss. Hitting? Well, that's taking a calculated risk right now to avoid losing for sure later on. Okay, next up, standing. This is when you decide you're done. You keep the hand you've got and your turn is over.
Now, the feeling here is all about safety. It feels safe, right? Whew, I didn't bust. But here's the hidden danger. When you stand on a weak hand, you're pretty much just giving the dealer a free shot to beat you. Standing when you shouldn't, it's one of the quietest ways to hand your money over to the house.
All right, let's get into splitting. This is when you get dealt 2 cards of the same rank, like a pair of 8s, and you get this awesome opportunity to split them into 2 completely separate hands. Now, a lot of people think the goal here is just to get rid of a bad hand. And yeah, a pair of 8s gives you 16, which is just terrible. But the real goal, the mathematical reason to do it, isn't just about escaping a bad hand, it's about turning one really weak position into 2 potentially strong ones. It's an aggressive play to maximize your chances. And that brings us to the big one, the move that makes a lot of people nervous, doubling down. The deal is, you double your bet, but you only get 1 more card. Just 1. That's the trade-off.
Look, the fear totally makes sense. It feels super aggressive, and man, if you lose, it stings twice as hard. But you have to hear this. The real cost isn't losing the double down. The real cost is failing to double down when the math is screaming at you to do it. Honestly, it's one of the most expensive mistakes you can make because you're leaving money on the table when the odds are stacked in your favor.
Okay, so we've reframed the 4 choices. But here's the thing. None of those decisions happen in a bubble. There is one piece of information on the table that changes everything, and that's the dealer's up card.
This is maybe the most important takeaway. Your decision, whether to hit, stand, whatever, should never be based just on your hand. It's not about what you have. It's about what you have versus what the dealer is showing.
And this little table shows it perfectly. Look at this. In both cases, you've got a pair of 8s. Now, if the dealer is showing a weak card, like a 6, splitting those 8s is an attack. It's a huge opportunity. But if the dealer's showing a strong 10, splitting is now a defensive move. You're doing it to minimize your expected loss. See? Same hand, but the dealer's card completely changes the reason for the play.
This all leads to a really big psychological trap for almost every player, and it's all about how we think about playing it safe.
Think about these common safe moves. You know, standing on a 16 just so you don't bust. Or refusing to double down on an 11 because it just feels too risky. Or not splitting a pair of aces because it feels, I don't know, uncomfortable. All of these things feel safe, but the math is clear. They are losing plays over time.
So this is the core idea right here. There is a massive difference between what I'd call emotional safety and mathematical safety. Emotional safety is all about avoiding that sting of busting on this one hand. But mathematical safety, that's about making the single best play that will lose you the least amount of money over thousands of hands. And guess what? They are very, very often not the same thing.
So you might be thinking, okay, what's the big deal? I make one little mistake, I go with my gut once in a while. Well, the problem is that all those little feelings start to add up. It's a compounding cost.
Just think about it for a second. Every single time you decide to stand when the math says hit, or you get scared and don't double down when the odds are screaming at you.
What you're actually doing is personally helping the casino. You are literally pushing their advantage, the house edge, higher and higher against yourself. Each tiny mistake doesn't feel like a big deal, but they stack up and they cost you real money. And that brings us to maybe the most powerful quote from our source material on this. It says, "Your job isn't to guess, it's to trust the structure." The structure of the game, the math behind it, it's already been figured out for you.
So yeah, the decisions feel personal, they feel dramatic in the moment. But the correct choice? It already exists. For every single possible hand, the math has been done. So the only question that's really left is, are you going to make it?